Do you still support a boycott of Starbucks?
You know, I had the pleasure of visiting the Pike Place Market Starbucks a little while ago, and I ordered I think it was a Blueberry Muffin Latte. That was like a staff creation. So
that's a no.
I guess I broke my boycott.
More friction came in November between the company's Starbucks union workers on the picket line and Seattle's new mayor.
I am proud to stand with union baristas in their fight for a fair contract and for a union. That is why I am proud to join them on their picket line and proud to say loud and clear, I am not buying Starbucks and you should not either.
Starbucks has announced it will eliminate a little more than 250 corporate jobs, including positions here in Seattle.
A message that comes just a week after Starbucks announced it will transition corporate jobs from Seattle to Nashville.
I don't think that's coincidental, but that would be unfortunate if we lose people because of a goofy tax system.
Now, according to recent reports from the King County Assessor's Office, the city's most valuable skyscrapers have lost $3.7 billion in value since 2022. So again, approximately a third of downtown commercial space remains vacant right now. Of course, Starbucks is doing their expansion in Nashville. Oracle has been moving out of Washington State. Nike, North Face, Vans, Lululemon, Saks, Abercrombie and Fitch.
And Amazon, the last time they were targeted out for taxation, they took 10,000 jobs. They moved them out of Seattle. I think they're going to continue to do that under this mayor.
Leftist Socialist Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson admits Starbucks boycott and criticism caused more harm than good. Yeah. But hey, it's all okay because we've ended the boycott with a Blueberry Muffin Latte. Let's get into it. Here we go. Quick clip. This is Fox 13 Seattle with Seattle City Club. This is an interview that covered a lot of topics, but this is the one that I was like, interesting. Okay, this is how we're going to handle this. Talking about the Starbucks. We had the whole deal with Starbucks was you had, you know, Howard Schultz moved, Starbucks is going to, move 2,000 jobs to a headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee, $100 million investment, shut 5 stores down. 4 of them were union. Katie Wilson is out literally protesting to not consume Starbucks goods. And Howard Schultz took out an op-ed and basically said, business environment in Seattle and in Washington State is so bad, people aren't going to want to do business there. They're going to take their jobs with them. They're going to take their businesses. We've already had billionaires leave, and now they're going after millionaires at the state level. So it's not a shocker that all of a sudden, Seattle's mayor is kind of walking back some of these comments because, those kind of things should have no place. When you are dependent upon big business to support, philanthropic donations and tax revenue and what makes a business go, and you've got a mayor of a North American city saying, don't buy from one of our founding companies that made Seattle great. Let's watch the clip. Here we go. Let's see. Is that? Yeah, there we go.
News recently for comments made.
I was going to say, don't
businesses.
ask me about the millionaire tax.
Well, made about businesses and the rich. Let's start with Starbucks. Do you still support a boycott of Starbucks?
I had the pleasure of visiting the Pike Place Market Starbucks a little while ago, and I ordered I think it was a Blueberry Muffin Latte. That was like a staff creation. So
that's a no.
I guess I broke my boycott.
Okay.
But I don't know. What do you want me to say about that?
So you
What do you want me to say about that? You literally, during your inauguration as mayor of Seattle, you came out and said, you literally came out and said, don't buy from Starbucks. So we'd like to hear a little bit more of an explanation than, well, I got myself a Blueberry Muffin Latte. You know what I mean? Am I the only one kind of shocked that this was the response This was the best that we could do. Starbucks literally announced $100 million investment, 2,000 jobs elsewhere, has been closing stores, including in Seattle. Yet people get fired. And, well, I got myself a blueberry latte. What else do you want me to say? How about, hey, yeah, that was really inappropriate. I should not have done that. I should not have done that. But you know what? This is what you get when you've got a bunch of people in Seattle that don't understand reality, that don't understand the consequences of actions, and they elect somebody who's a straight up socialist into a North American city that is dependent upon capitalism to pay all its bills. But let's go ahead on the mayor level and just say, oh, yeah, don't buy from Starbucks. The optics, any way you look at it, the optics here are incredibly, incredibly poor. And the whole world knows it. The whole world knows it. I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking that you have a mayor that can't really think, half a step ahead of where she's at and literally says, hey, I think the number of millionaires moving out of the state is overblown. And for those millionaires moving out, bye. Ha. And you're like, oh, that's in the same league. That's in the same league as boycotting Starbucks. Katie Wilson, she's a socialist. She believes in unions. And I think she says that here at the end of the clip.
You support them.
I absolutely support unions, and I support
that
workers,
question from the crowd.
yes.
So
that Trump is white Obama. He's Obama.
I absolutely support unions. Why wouldn't you? You're a socialist. Why wouldn't you? This is literally what we're looking at. This is the mayor of Seattle. Isn't turning on the lights, doing studies when you got pimp on pimp shootings that are almost killing babies. I mean, and you'd think I'd be exaggerating this kind of stuff, but I'm literally not. You've just got this storyline that keeps on going. I don't think Katie Wilson makes it through 4 years of being mayor. She's already done too many missteps. She's going to do something. Something's going to happen. It'll be outside of her control. Won't be able to deal with it. Will have an absolute meltdown. Because being mayor of Seattle, I wouldn't want that job. There's a lot of big swinging dicks out there. They go, here's what I do. I take all the drug addicts and I'd put them on an island. I take all the homeless and put them there. I'd put a cop in every store and we'd arrest all the criminals and we'd deport all the criminal illegals. That ain't happening in Seattle. Not from a mayor's office. Mayor only has control over a little bit, and I'm not making any excuses for Mayor Katie Wilson, but the optics of her actions are such that it doesn't make it through 4 years. I wonder what the prediction markets have on that, right? What's the over-under on Katie Wilson making it through 4 big ones? Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson walking back earlier comments, urging consumers to boycott Starbucks as tensions grow over Seattle's relationship with major employers, and the coffee giant expands its footprint outside Washington state. Wilson, Democratic Socialist, elected last year as a progressive labor-backed platform, told the Times this week that comments she made during a Starbucks workers' strike last fall were not productive. No. I think they were very productive. We figured out where you sit, and you sit with unions. Well, good thing Starbucks loves a good union busting, right? Oh, you gonna unionize that store? Closed. That one too? Closed. Those comments were not productive in the sense that they caused more harm than good. But if you meant them, then it is what it is. And that's what happened. Cat's out of the bag. But hey, don't worry. Blueberry Muffin Latte. I hear it's good. I don't drink coffee, so I could care less, right? Blueberry Muffin Latte, though. I mean, what is in that? Is that going to become a bestseller? Is that even on the menu? I'm going to have to ask somebody who has better coffee knowledge than that. I have none. I don't drink coffee. I drink green tea. I know it's boring, but I don't like coffee. Remarks marked a notable shift in tone from comments Wilson made shortly after winning Seattle's mayor race in November, when she joined Starbucks workers on a picket line outside the company's former Reserve Roastery, which was closed. Gone now. See, you've got this whole situation where you've got these ideals meeting up with reality, which is Starbucks workers should be getting the same wage as somebody building airplane parts for a Boeing jetliner. Pouring coffee, one's making planes go in the air. Not the same. So when you've got these union workers that demand a living wage, my thought is, well, that's fine. Then go to an industry where you can make a living wage. Barista isn't really meant as a job where you're going to support a family, especially not in Seattle. Look at the economics. Median home price in Seattle is what, 800 grand? Something like that? 900 grand? Some just outrageous number for Seattle Metro. And you don't get much for that. You don't get much for that. And so this idea that you're going to be able to have a living wage pouring coffee at Starbucks, that's just not a thing. I'm not buying Starbucks, and you should not either. All right, now we're walking it back because that didn't really work out. At the time, several unionized Starbucks workers in Seattle and other cities were striking amid stalled contract negotiations with the company. My thing is capitalism is based on, can we make money? And if they can't make money, they close it down. It's pretty simple. The other major thing is minimum wage can always go to zero. Hey, you guys are fired. You know why? Stores closed down. It's what we're doing. Wage in Seattle has created so many scenarios where businesses cannot stay open. Covered a famous chef and restaurateur in Seattle that recently closed down 2 businesses. And he said he got stripped down as far as he could on his oyster bar restaurant. Only had 2 employees during the day, one dude to shuck oysters and the other to pour drinks. Couldn't make it go because he's got to pay those people $30 an hour. And if he has an off day, he's sideways because of the minimum wage it takes in Seattle because of this kind of nonsense where I support unions. All right, well, how's that working out for those businesses that are closing down? Well, I support unions. So you've got this reality versus ideology, which is unions are great. I support them. Well, of course you do. You're a socialist. Workers of the world unite. Those concerns intensified after Starbucks announced plans to establish 2,000 employee corporate hub in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah. Red leadership versus blue. Red leadership versus blue. Texas just took over California for greatest number of Fortune 500 headquarters in the country by 1, 56 to 57. They now have greater Fortune 500 company output in Texas than California does. Numbers are changing. And, you know, with an outlook of a millionaire tax, and Katie Wilson clearly at the beginning of that interview didn't want to talk about the corporate tax, about the millionaire tax, because that's not really her thing. That's done more at the state level. But it kind of goes along with supporting, you know, really high minimum wages and workers of the world unite. And we're going to tax the rich. That's just not going to go over well. All the rich are mobile. They have money. They're just going to leave. So we got the corporate headquarters in Nashville fueling debate over whether the company could gradually shift more operations away from Seattle. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Starbucks was founded here in 1971. Still maintains its global headquarters. Tennessee has increasingly attracted corporate expansions. And that's what you know, I read these stories every single day of companies moving from blue states to red states. Real thing. And then you'll have news articles saying, well, yeah, but there's more population moved into Seattle than wherever. And you're like, yeah, because all the good jobs have left with their businesses, and you got a bunch of Somali fraudsters that have moved in. You got a bunch of criminal illegals who won't pay taxes. There will be a drag on society. But if you want to count that as a population win, go for it. 2 thumbs up. Go for it. We'll see how that works out, because the tax numbers are such that the state of Washington knows they need to create progressive revenue, meaning tax the rich, tax businesses. And that just drives those 2 entities out. No thanks. We're going to go elsewhere. Seattle City Council member Rob Saka told the New York Times he was gravely concerned about the potential implications for the city. This is the same guy that's on the city council and said, hey, I ran in the Boston Marathon and they had cameras on, and I went through the finish line and was a couple of blocks down the road and those bombs exploded. So his thought is, with the camera situation in Seattle with the World Cup coming, Katie Wilson doesn't want to turn those cameras on because of privacy issues. She's afraid ICE is going to come in and steal the data, and or they're going to take the data and deport criminal illegals. How is that a bad thing? Where's the downside there? Deporting criminals? I'm okay with that. Came into the country illegally. They're criminals. Get them out. Toss them. Just boom, gone. But no, we're going to have the cameras. We're going to be the only city. Seattle's going to be the only city that's not going to have its 22 cameras on in the United States that is hosting the FIFA World Cup. What could go wrong? So this guy in the city council is gravely concerned about the implications for the city. This is real, he told the New York Times. Yeah, you can't just, you can't just throw stuff out there and make it up with a Blueberry Muffin Latte comment. Well, I went to Starbucks and I had a Blueberry Muffin Latte. All right, that boycott. Well, what do you want me to say? Well, maybe, hey, I understand the implications of this. I understand. I've thought about this, and I look at the tax revenue from Starbucks, and I'm looking at the $100 million investment leaving, and maybe my comments were such that they were not in good taste. I made a massive, massive mistake, and I would love to keep Starbucks here as an entity instead of, I support unions. Actions have consequences. This is real. Saka's concern might mark a notable shift from his tone following Wilson's election victory when he praised the mayor's energy. Well, he's a Democrat. Anybody supporting anybody in Seattle is going to be a Democrat, and probably a progressive, maybe a socialist, maybe a commie. Maybe a straight up communist. You just don't know, right? World's your oyster here in Seattle. And voters were calling for change and a renewed focus on affordability. Dropped considerably in Washington State, in Seattle? No, it's gotten more expensive. There's one way, and it's not down. It is up, right? Former Starbucks Howard Schultz weighed in earlier this month. Wall Street Journal op-ed. Criticizing Seattle's political leadership and warning the city risks alienating businesses that help fuel its economic rise. Wall Street Journal. And all Katie Wilson can manage to eke out is, well, I had a Blueberry Muffin Latte and I like unions. How about recognizing some of the reality here? Seattle's Mayor Katie Wilson has chosen to cast business as a foil rather than a partner, Schultz wrote. Her socialist rhetoric vilifies employers, even while she continues to rely on them for revenue. And even a few weeks later after that, she basically said, hey, thanks for the donation towards the homeless cause. Starbucks kicked in with $3 million. Thanks, guys. Thanks. You're a great partner. But don't buy from Starbucks. But, Blueberry Muffin Latte, that's good. So are unions. This whole optics, reality, just, yeah. I mean, you're living in the down under. You are literally living in the down under when you have a mayor like Katie Wilson running the show. Because that is how you end up with, just podcasts like this. This podcast should not exist. But Katie Wilson doesn't have a background to be able to allow her to understand the implications of what she says. She's just been told, this is what we believe in, and this is what you got to say. Therefore, you say it, and you don't really understand when you say, don't buy from Starbucks. I'm not going to buy from Starbucks, and you shouldn't either. Those are fighting words. Those are absolutely fighting words. And you got to take whatever the beat down is when you say that kind of stuff, because the whole world is watching and they're saying, Seattle off the map for the next 3 years as Katie Wilson does her thing. We'll revisit that. Maybe when Seattle gets somebody in charge that has a, elementary education of, how not to make basic missteps on alienating some of the biggest employers that her city is dependent upon for tax revenue. Yeah. We got rising housing costs, affordability concerns, and tax policy disputes. Washington lawmakers approved a 9.9% tax on personal income above $1 million. She didn't want to talk about that because, she's got a whole bunch of other things that she has to answer to, and too many thoughts that she has to combat in her head. Not going to work out well. Got to leave room for the Blueberry Muffin Latte. I want them here, Wilson said of Starbucks, and I believe they want to be here. Well, yes and no, because then we got that whole Nashville thing. What about that Nashville thing? A compliment to our global and North America presence in Seattle. But not in Seattle. Hey, Starbucks makes a mean blueberry muffin latte. That's what you should focus on. Delicious, I hear. And unions are good. Yeah, anyway. Podcasts for days, weeks, months, years, decades, who knows beyond that. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again for joining. Bye for now.